Welcome to Tales from the Dorkside. I don't know what episode we're on now. It's like 7, I think.
Episode 69.
I think we're on episode 7.
Right. So we have kind of an unusual way of counting the episodes because it's not necessarily like every time we sit down is a new episode.
Which is confusing because, and I may have done it wrong. Because when I'm doing it onto like Spreaker, which sends it out to the podcast world, like each one of them has an episode. But then when I'm on YouTube, I'm like, well, but we released this, and it's really an extension. Like the watch-alongs are kind of an extension, but even in the new shows that we're going to do, though, like starting today, we're not going to include the highlights anymore. We're just going to give you the full unedited one that you can go to and watch. So we'll talk about the show.
Yes, we will.
Because we are every show. That was our promise to every one of you that we will talk about every episode of Tales from the Dorkside.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason that everybody's coming here in the first place, obviously, is for
yeah, exactly.
the Tales from the Dorkside recaps.
If they didn't get that, they might revolt. They might never listen again.
Yeah.
So
they would actually, like, we would get shut down by like all of the whoever the president of podcasts is.
Yeah, the wizard of podcasting. That'd be funny. I want to meet that guy or girl.
Maybe there's a movie idea there.
Yeah, that would
steal it.
They will steal it.
Kevin Smith, don't steal our idea.
It'll be out. Actually, did you meet Kevin Smith?
I didn't meet him. I didn't pay for the VIP package. I'm a little cheapo. But I did get to go see him in person for the first time that I'd seen him. And I think it's funny because he came out and he was like, I'm pretty sure this is my first time ever in Oklahoma. And people were like, you were in Tulsa.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't remember that.
Wasn't he in Tulsa like the other day, though?
Well, he meant like doing an actual show. He was like signing comics in Tulsa the day before the show.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He highly complimented our weed. So he thought he didn't know what to expect coming here. And he was very impressed. He said he'd love to come back. So
well, he has his own brand that they sell here at some places.
Yeah, so he doesn't really have anything to do with that. That's through a company called Caviar Gold. Yeah, which some of you may be familiar with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he'd partnered with them basically, and they just came up with some strains and flavors and stuff. It was funny. He was talking to the owner of that company and was like, "Well, is there like a flavor you want it to be?" And he goes, breakfast. And I was like the only person in the auditorium that laughed when he said that.
That is funny though.
So they ended up making it maple syrup flavored, which is appropriate.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't tried any of his stuff yet, just because before I was working for a company that sells, and so we were competitors. I was like, F you, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
No. But I wish we had got like the contract somehow to like put, because you know how it is. They're growing it and then they just slap his name on it.
Right, exactly. It's like a kind of a branding deal.
Yeah.
But I looked it up on like Leafly or one of those apps, and the closest I could find was like 41 minutes away from my house.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if there's somewhere else that just wasn't on that site, but
yeah, they
do sell it in the state, but I don't feel like driving that far. Plus, like, I know the brand. And it is nothing to play lightly with. Like,
yeah. So Clerks 3, was it awesome?
I loved it. Of course, critics out there are going to say this, that, and the other about Kevin Smith films, but I was really, really surprised. I didn't know what to expect going into it. I didn't have like the highest hopes. I figured it'd be okay.
Yeah.
But based on like the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I kind of thought was bad.
Yeah, me too.
He even said like it was a bad movie.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh,
so he was talking shit because he did a road show for that movie as well, and he's like, I can't believe people paid to come out and see a bad movie. He's like, at least this time around, people are paying to see a good movie.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like as huge a fan of Clerks 2 as I was some of his other movies too. Didn't dislike it.
Yeah.
But
it was just, and he even had a whole spiel. I won't go into it now, but he had a spiel about Clerks 2. Like, he liked it, but it was more of like he called it just like a movie rather than being like a film and like a big story. It was just kind of like this is a fun thing with a fun like packaged ending.
That's interesting that he's acknowledging like his shortcomings on some of those things, because he's Kevin Smith, he's a creative dude, but he's not gonna hit it out of the park every time, I don't guess.
Right.
We're going to talk about some of his movies coming up just because he's worked with Justin Long. And we're going to talk about Justin Long coming up because of Barbarian that came out this week.
It's going to be a long episode.
Yeah, but we are going to have an episode of just Kevin Smith horror movies that we're going to go over.
Absolutely.
And did he say anything like, did he mention anything about Moosejaws?
Okay, so I was going to ask a question. Like, I had a question prepared, but I didn't get in line.
Right.
Because there was already like 3 people in line. And if you're familiar with his format of answering questions, somebody will ask a question, he'll talk for 45 minutes. The Q&A he did after the movie was 2 hours long, which was incredible. But somebody asked him about Mallrats too, because that's kind of been in like production, like kind of in just purgatory.
Limbo, yeah.
So he's like, I've got an idea for the next 5 movies I want to do. Y'all want to hear it? And of course, everybody's like, yes. So he has that one. He's trying to get made. And he said it's getting closer. There's been a lot of success with Clerks 3, so that's been helpful in like kind of invigorating people's interest in working with him, specifically like Lionsgate. And so then he has another. This is crazy. So he moved back to his hometown in Jersey and bought the old movie theater that he used to go to.
Oh wow!
And there's an apartment.
How Tarantino of him.
There's an apartment above it, and he lives.
Oh wow!
Above the movie theater.
Really?
It's called the Smod Castle Theater.
Nice.
And like, so he does all these like screenings of his stuff and just like all sorts of crazy
stuff.
Dope. So he wants to make a movie based around that theater because he used to go there as a kid. He's like, I own the set, so like that helps. So that would be another idea that he was going with.
Quick question.
Sure.
If you could own any theater here in Oklahoma that had any kind of specialness to it, mine would be the Winchester, the drive-in theater on the south side.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. What about you? You got any off the top of your head?
Man, not right off the top of my head. There was, so it's not in Oklahoma, but when I went to visit in Portland, they had this really cool arcade. It was like a penny arcade.
Yeah.
But you actually like just paid a nickel for each game.
Oh, yeah.
Which was cool.
That's pretty cool.
And they had a little theater off to the side that was very reminiscent of like going to the movies in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That like, it just kind of had a different vibe, smaller theater and everything like that. So something like that would be cool.
Yeah.
Or like the old Dollar Theater that used to be, I think it was up on Northwest Expressway. It's closed.
Yeah, up on Expressway. And there was one on Shields, and that's the one I always went to.
Yeah.
But I did see like 1 or 2 movies before the one on Expressway closed because it was over there by the radio station.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, though, with the Kevin Smith.
Yeah, so those were 2 of the movies. And then he's like, the next one, it's basically Jaws, but with a moose. And I was like, yes! So that was cool.
Well, and if people don't know, Moosejaws is like he was doing the Great White North trilogy, starting with Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and then Moosejaws was supposed, and so that's why I'm like, where's Moosejaws?
Yeah. And then nobody wanted to make it for the longest time.
Yeah.
Because, well, Tusk and Bratzies. But yeah, so that movie is still on the table.
Okay.
And so the next one is the one I'm most excited about. He tells this story about he went to Ben Affleck's wedding with Jason Mewes. They flew out there on the way back. Their flight was delayed. And so they ended up missing their connecting flight. Well, Jason Mewes goes up to the help desk to see if there was another airport near, like the one they were going to in California. And they were like, well, they have 1 seat left. And he's like, I got it, and just took off. And he was like, see you later, Silent Bill, because that's his joke, as he calls him Silent Bill.
Yeah.
And so Kevin Smith just got, he found a hotel with a balcony near the airport so he could, do his smoke session. And was scrolling through Twitter and saw somebody post, I can't believe they put Tusk on HBO Max. And he was like, oh, I can't believe that either. Like, so he pulled it up and like watched it. He hadn't seen it in a while. And so he got, pretty stoned and watched it and was like having...
Which you should do.
Yes. He said he was having a great time watching it. So he pulled up his phone and did a text chain with the 3 main stars and mentioned making a sequel called Tusks. An S as the $, which was so the reasoning behind that is apparently the guy that made Aliens, which wasn't Ridley Scott, the other guy, he came in to pitch it, and he said he walked in, wrote on a dry erase board Alien, and all the execs were like, huh? And then he put an S on it, and they're like, oh. And then he put 2 lines through the S, and they were like, yeah.
That's funny.
So it was
That's
like
funny.
a joke kind of based on that. And he said, Haley Joel Osment responded, I see dead people. And Justin Long just said, ha, 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 ha. Like, and then about 2 minutes later goes, wait, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you serious about this? Like, that movie almost just halfway destroyed my career. He said, I guess if I'm going to destroy the other half, it would be making a sequel.
Yeah.
So apparently, Tusk, the sequel, is in his wheelhouse, in his mind, and I pray to God that it gets made.
I kind of, it's not like he doesn't do sequels, because you just saw Clerks 3, but
Yeah.
I kind of never imagined a sequel. Like,
Right.
Do you think that a sequel, there's got to be a lot of pressure there? Because to me, that if you left that movie just as is, it's great. Like,
It's a perfect movie, in
So-
my opinion.
but I do want to see a sequel. I'm not gonna lie, I do want to see a sequel.
Yeah. So I guess his idea, like at this point in the infant stage, is to somehow have Justin Long's character basically like passing the torch to where he becomes the new evil guy. But I'm like, how is that going to work?
Yeah,
Is he just going to be flopping around as a walrus? Like, or is there like somehow he got put back together as a person or...
Quick horror movie generator where we remake somebody's movie or do a sequel. But what if like the guy that made him into the Tusk left him all this money, like he receives all this money from that guy.
Yeah.
And so he hires somebody that, is his zookeeper basically. And he's like king of the Tusks.
Yeah. He just like sits up on like a podium with a microphone and
Oh my God.
makes an army of walrus.
It's funny that Justin Long said that movie almost killed his career. Like, do you think that was being facetious, or do you think that it really had a negative effect on his perception in Hollywood?
Well, I think a little bit of both. I was actually listening to Justin Long's podcast on the way over, and they were talking about Tusk, and like his mother went to go see it in the theater, and afterwards she said, I don't ever want you working with that man again. He's
not
deranged.
proud of you. Yeah.
And he had like people hitting him up being like, why did you do that?
Oh,
But
I just don't get the like actual hate for it, because yes, it is a disturbing movie.
right.
That's what it's supposed
the
to do.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Justin Long was so great in it, as we will talk about later.
Yeah, like to have the whole comedy aspect of it, and then to like be genuinely disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Because like that's one of those things where you think about, like, if that actually happened to you,
Yeah.
that would be terrifying.
Right.
That'd
When he
be-
wakes up and he's like, my leg is off.
Yeah. And then the very end, like where everybody is just like throwing him little fishy.
That's so good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So was that the last of the movies he was wanting to make, or was
Then
there
the
one more?
final one
Yeah.
was, so I guess Jason Mewes' daughter was in the reboot, not as his daughter, but as Ben Affleck's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so what they want to do is wait 10 years until she's like 17-ish years old and do a third, the trilogy, to finalize the Jay and Silent Bob story,
Right.
where they have to go back to Hollywood one more time to stop yet another iteration of the movie being made.
Yeah.
And she kind of plays like the lead of like the women.
That's pretty cool. He's got like a long-term plan too.
Yeah.
And I wonder, based off of what you said, like he was kind of saying that, yeah, that movie wasn't that great, the reboot. Maybe he feels like this would be a good chance to redeem that.
Right.
And not leave it in a place where you're like, oh, that wasn't as good
Yeah.
as it could have been.
Yeah, we'll have 60-something-year-old Jay and Silent Bob, which could be hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I got some, was that all the Kevin Smith news?
Yeah.
As you saw fit?
The most important thing of that whole like morsel was the Tusk sequel concept.
Because you know what would be kind of cool is if he does Moosejaws, and then it's like the Tusks and the Moosejaws fight.
Yeah.
It turns into almost like a King Kong Godzilla type.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well,
just a whole army of walrus people.
And Bratzies flanking them.
All right.
Oh my God. I got some other horror movie news. Actually, this one's a TV show. But I had mentioned a couple weeks ago on our show that they were talking about wanting to do another Friday the 13th. Shudder was wanting to do another Jason movie. Well, that's not going to happen probably for a good long time, but there is a show coming. It's going to be a prequel series. It's called Crystal Lake. It's by A24, and it's going to be centered on Pamela Voorhees, the mom.
Right.
It is
a little bit about that,
and it, like I may have said this, but it's releasing on Peacock. Now, the guy that's making it said the movie rights are a completely different thing. They're tied up with New Line, and it's super messy. So that's why I say it might be a while before we see a Jason movie, but. Do you want to see a prequel about the mom?
I mean, it doesn't get me like jazzed necessarily, but at the same time, I guess it just depends on how they go about doing it.
It reminds me kind of like of the prequel to Bates Motel.
Yeah.
Or Psycho. It was called Bates Motel.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a pretty good show.
Right.
And I liked it a lot. But the other way that it ties into Psycho is I thought the first Jason or the Friday the 13th movie was kind of like a Psycho movie in reverse, where it was about the mom instead of the son.
Right.
But there was a lot of the same kind of things going on. And even the music kind of reminded me of like the Psycho movie, you know, from the first Friday the 13th movie. But of course, that was a great movie. But then like a couple more movies in, I thought is when it really got like good with Friday the 13th. And that's when Jason came out, got the hockey mask and all of that. Because people forget, like, it was like, he wasn't really the hockey mask, because the second one, he had like a bag over his head.
Yeah. He was just kind of like a mutant.
Yeah. Was the third one with Corey Feldman?
Maybe. I don't remember.
It was around that time, but that's when I thought, it really became what it was with Jason being who he is with and like I say, with the hockey mask and everything.
That's like the most identifiable feature.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Yeah. So I just don't know if I care to see the Crystal Lake prequel.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Also, if you didn't see Nope when it was out at theaters, it's going to be on Peacock this week.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I've been wanting to watch that. I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh, it's really good. I can't wait till you see it. I'd like to talk to you about it. Were you a big fan of 28 Days or 28 Weeks Later?
I was. I went to the theater to see the first one, and I was a teenager. This is kind of a dumb story, but there was a point where he's just, walking. Like there's no dialogue for the first probably half hour at least.
Yeah.
There's a point where he's walking past this bridge, and there's like a concrete statue of a lion. And in my dumb brain, I was like, it would be hilarious if the head of that just fell off and crushed him, and then the credits started rolling.
Yeah, that would be great.
But aside from that, I really enjoyed it. I don't remember the second one as much. I know I've seen it.
The second one had one of the greatest openings ever, I thought, because I can't remember the guy's name. He played Begbie in Trainspotting.
Yeah.
He was like the real big asshole. And he's been in some great movies too. But he is running to get out of the house. And I think he's got like his kids with him and his wife. Well, his wife doesn't make it. And like he kind of goes on without her. And I remember when I first saw that, I was like, yeah, I guess that's kind of cowardly. But when these rage zombies are chasing you, it's all all for one for all.
Yeah.
No, it's me for myself. I
right.
gotta, I don't want to turn into one of these rage zombies. It's not going to do my kids any good.
Right. That's one way to look at it, is like, well, it's not going to do our kids any good if we're both dead.
Yeah, exactly. But it was still kind of like, could he have saved her? And so, but Cillian Murphy wasn't in the second one. He was only in the first one. And so Cillian Murphy and Danny Boyle, the original director, who also directed Trainspotting and many other movies, Slumdog Millionaire. Just a great director.
Yeah.
He said that there's a script that's been written a few years ago, and he feels like now's the right time to go ahead and do it. So him and Killian are talking about putting the final touches on it and making 28 months later.
Ah, nice.
So I would be very, very excited.
Yeah,
to,
that would be awesome.
See that, especially with Danny Boyle and Cillian Murphy coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's some stuff to look forward to.